Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this powerful story of resilience, innovation, and redemption, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an inspiring new video. Every week, we share real and meaningful stories about people who stood up for their ideas, overcame betrayal, and proved their worth in the face of adversity. By subscribing, you're joining a community that believes in fairness, integrity, and the power of standing strong for what's right. Do you know someone who needs encouragement today? Share this video with them and help spread a message of hope and empowerment. We'd also love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and tell us what part of this story inspired you the most. Subscribe now and be part of a movement that celebrates courage, wisdom, and justice. I still remember how the hum of the air conditioning filled that chilly executive suite. My hands rested calmly on the polished oak table, but inside, my heart raced as I stared across at Elaine Carter, the CEO of Novamed Technologies. After 14 dedicated years, this was how it would end. "Leah, we're realigning the research division," Elaine announced, her gaze fixed on the papers in front of her rather than meeting my eyes. Beside her sat her nephew, Connor, freshly appointed as VP of Strategy, wearing a smug smile that didn't bother hiding his satisfaction. "Your role has been classified as redundant." Redundant. The word echoed like an insult. I had led the team that developed the very neural interface that powered Novamed's cutting-edge prosthetics. My work was the backbone of the company's multi-million-dollar contracts. The room went silent. Everyone seemed to expect a reaction, a plea, outrage, maybe tears. Instead, I quietly closed my notebook, stood, and offered a polite nod. "I see. I'll pack my things today." Elaine blinked in surprise, almost disappointed. She'd wanted drama, perhaps an argument she could use against me. But I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction. As security escorted me to my office, I walked past my team. Their faces were a mix of shock and sympathy, but not one dared to speak up, not even Maya, the junior engineer I had mentored since her first internship. Outside, sitting in my car, I inhaled deeply, then exhaled slowly. They didn't even realize what they'd just lost. At home, I poured a glass of Merlot and unlocked the small safe in my closet. Inside, I retrieved a well-worn folder. I flipped to the section I had practically memorized over the years. All intellectual property created by employees shall remain company property, except any patents registered under the employee's name, licensed exclusively to the company for a term specified by separate agreement. A quiet smile crept across my lips. I remembered how James Ford, the company's original founder, had fought to include that clause for me back when I was still an ambitious postdoc. "Always protect your work, Leah," he'd warned me. "Leaders come and go." He couldn't have been more right. I pulled out the second document, the licensing agreement for NeuroBridge, the neural control interface I'd invented and patented in my own name. Novamed had been operating under a 10-year exclusive license, which would expire in exactly 5 days. Without renewal, every prosthetic they sold would immediately be in violation of patent law. Every device they manufactured would be legally unsellable. Their entire product line would be paralyzed unless they negotiated a new license with me, the same woman they had just discarded. I sipped my wine and opened my laptop. It was time to prepare for the moment when Novamed realized they'd just fired the one person they couldn't afford to lose. I thought back to those long nights 7 years ago when the company faced collapse after a failed FDA approval. I'd worked 20-hour days in that small lab, coding relentlessly until NeuroBridge became a breakthrough. When I first tested it, the prosthetic hand moving with such delicate precision it could tie a shoelace, James had watched in awe. "You saved us," he whispered. And I had. Orders came pouring in from hospitals, clinics, and military suppliers. James had insisted I patent the system in my own name, in case the company doesn't survive. He'd been looking out for me. And now, without knowing it, he'd given me the power to decide Novamed's fate. I downloaded the logs capturing the unauthorized alterations, carefully documenting how they'd attempted to override the security measures I'd embedded. This wasn't mere incompetence, it was deliberate intellectual property violation. I immediately called Rachel again. "They've already started tampering with it," I told her, my voice tight. "That's their first infringement right there," she replied darkly. "Keep compiling every shred of evidence. We're building an airtight case." I stayed up through the night, meticulously organizing files, time-stamped logs, design drafts, and internal messages. This wasn't about retaliation. I wanted acknowledgement, a fair agreement for the technology one created. But Elaine's arrogance had left no room for a peaceful solution. Late Friday, my phone rang from an unfamiliar number. I hesitated, then answered. "Leah, it's Maya. I'm calling on a disposable phone." Her voice trembled. "Everything's unraveling here." "What's going on?" I asked, heart quickening. Zach convinced Elaine to let him upgrade the neural interface modules. He erased 3 critical components, saying they were obsolete. Then he spliced in his own untested algorithms. She paused, swallowing audibly. During today's demo with Medivance, the prototype malfunctioned. The robotic arm spun out of control and crushed their sample prosthetic. My chest tightened. Medivance was our biggest prospect, a multi-million-dollar deal riding on that presentation. Their CEO was livid. Maya continued. "They're threatening legal action for damages and delays." How did Elaine react? She told the board it was the fault of your unstable old system. "She's pinning this on you, Leah." I felt the heat rise in my chest, but kept my tone calm. "Do you have proof of the changes Zach implemented?" "Yes." I backed up the entire code repository before he wiped it. "I'll send it through a secure channel." "Please be cautious, Maya. Don't jeopardize your position." She sighed bitterly. "It's too late. I handed in my resignation this morning. I can't stand by and watch this mess." When we ended the call, a somber realization settled over me. This wasn't just about me anymore. Careers were at stake. A company I had poured years into was headed for collapse. Saturday morning, I met with Dr. Patel, my former professor from Stanford, now a senior partner at Lexington IP Law. I brought a flash drive containing every document, the contracts, patent certificates, internal emails, and Maya's secured evidence. "They terminated you, ignored your notice about the license expiration, altered proprietary technology without consent, and now they're scapegoating you?" Dr. Patel summarized, eyebrows raised. "That's the situation," I confirmed. He shook his head slowly. "Leah, this is one of the most clear-cut infringement cases I've seen in years. Lexington will take this on pro bono." "Pro bono?" I asked, startled. "Because you deserve justice," he said firmly. "And because the industry needs innovators like you protected." A wry smile tugged at his lips. "Besides, it'll make an excellent teaching case for my IP law class." By the end of our meeting, we'd finalized a cease and desist letter demanding that Novamed renew the NeuroBridge license by Sunday at midnight or face an immediate injunction Monday morning. Dr. Patel's assistant hand-delivered the letter directly to Elaine's residence that evening. The countdown had officially begun. 36 hours until the license expired. 3 days until the consequences would be unavoidable. Monday morning, while I sat in Dr. Patel's office preparing court filings, a text popped up from Maya. "Emergency board meeting happening now. Elaine's furious about the legal notice." 20 minutes later, another message. "Elaine told everyone you're being vindictive, said your threats won't hold up. Legal team says otherwise." A third ping followed. "Their general counsel just spoke. Leah's claim is fully enforceable. NeuroBridge powers 87% of our operational devices." I could envision the scene vividly. Elaine's confident expression melting away as the weight of that statement sank in. The board members trading uneasy glances. Someone finally breaking the silence. "What happens if Leah revokes the license?" Dr. Patel and I finalized the legal filings, prepared to submit first thing Tuesday morning, if necessary. We weren't bluffing. Late that afternoon, my phone rang. Raj, from the legal department, called me directly. Leah, it's chaos here. His voice was strained. Legal confirmed you're the sole patent holder. Elaine's scrambling to find a loophole, but there's nothing. We've advised her to enter negotiations immediately. There was a pause. She said she'd rather gamble in court than reward blackmail. I closed my eyes briefly, steadying my breath. That's her choice. But the license ends at midnight. After that, every NeuroBridge-enabled device is unauthorized. I know, Raj said quietly. We all know. At 12:01 a.m. Tuesday, the license officially expired. I couldn't sleep, knowing what the morning would bring. By 8:30 a.m., my phone vibrated nonstop with messages. The security failsafe I'd embedded years ago had triggered automatically once the license lapsed. NeuroBridge reverted to a restricted mode, still functional, but stripped of all advanced integrations. Maya texted first, all systems showing critical alerts. Assembly line units aren't responding to commands. Raj followed. Customers are calling nonstop. Support teams overwhelmed. Elaine locked herself in the boardroom. At 9:17 a.m., my phone rang. Elaine's name flashed across the screen. I let it go to voicemail. Leah, she began, her voice taut but shaken, whatever point you're trying to make, you've made it. Call me back so we can resolve this. Her usual confidence had vanished, replaced by desperation. I listened to the message twice, then forwarded it to Dr. Patel with a simple note. It's working. We had planned this response carefully. The strategy was to wait, let them experience the full consequence of their arrogance. Let Elaine realize what she had thrown away when she forced me out. By noon, Novamed's stock had dropped 8%. 3 major clients had threatened to cancel their contracts. Zachary, the so-called AI expert, had reportedly vanished from the office without a trace. At 2 p.m., I finally returned Elaine's call. Leah, thank God, she sighed, relief flooding her words. We need this fixed immediately. Tell me what it'll take to restore functionality. I'm not turning anything off, Elaine, I replied calmly. The license expired. The system is simply enforcing its legal protections. Fine, then let's renew the agreement. Same terms. I nearly laughed at her assumption we'd return to the old deal. No, Elaine. New terms. I'll email them shortly. I sent the document Dr. Patel and I had drafted. $1.5 million annual licensing fee, renewed quarterly at my discretion. Full patent credit in all marketing and technical materials. A dedicated maintenance team reporting directly to me as an independent consultant. Explicit prohibitions on unauthorized alterations. The line went quiet as she read. This is extortion, she finally sputtered. This is business, I corrected gently. You terminated me, ignored my warnings, tampered with my technology, and blamed me when it failed. These terms represent the new reality. The board will never agree to this. Then I recommend calling an emergency board meeting. Production is still stalled, isn't it? Another long silence. I'll call you back, she said, voice icy, before hanging up. I knew exactly where she was headed. I knew exactly where Elaine would go next, to legal counsel, desperately hoping to uncover a loophole in my patent. Good luck finding one. The following morning, she requested a formal meeting at Lexington IP Law. I arrived alongside Dr. Patel, feeling unexpectedly composed despite the magnitude of what lay ahead. Elaine entered flanked by Connor and their in-house attorney, Michelle Davis. The bravado she once carried had dimmed, replaced by simmering frustration. Let's not waste time, Elaine began, forcing a polite tone. We've reviewed your proposal and have a counter. She slid a folder across the polished conference table. Inside was a written offer, $250,000 in exchange for full ownership of the NeuroBridge patent. Dr. Patel didn't even reach for the papers. That's nowhere near a fair valuation, he replied evenly. And you know it. Elaine leaned forward. Leah, be reasonable. You developed NeuroBridge while under Novamed's employment. This patent situation is a minor technicality. A legal distinction that makes all the difference, I corrected her gently. And no, I created the foundational system off the clock, using my own resources, during a time the company was on the brink of collapse. That's why James insisted I file it independently. Elaine's jaw tightened. James was too idealistic. He didn't understand modern business. Without a word, I pulled out my phone and played an audio message Maya had forwarded days earlier. Elaine's unmistakable voice came through. We don't need Leah anymore. She's just expensive baggage left over from James's leadership. I paused the recording and looked her directly in the eye. Does that sound like a leader guided by sentiment, Elaine? Or someone who underestimated what she was discarding? For once, Elaine had no snappy retort. By Wednesday afternoon, Novamed was unraveling. Production had been stalled for over 24 hours. Customer support was overwhelmed by calls from furious clients across the globe. The company's stock had plunged another 12%. According to Raj, Elaine still refused to accept my terms. Instead, she had instructed the engineering team to reboot operations using archived versions of the system, hoping to circumvent the license lapse. I felt a flicker of sympathy, almost. You see, I had anticipated this exact maneuver years ago. NeuroBridge's framework included a dynamic verification protocol that checked for active licenses every 12 hours. Even legacy system backups would initiate an authorization check upon startup. At 4:30 p.m., a message popped up from Maya. They're trying to boot from old backups. No luck. System reverts to basic mode every time. Zach's blaming the network, the servers, he even accused the janitorial staff. Everyone sees he's clueless. At 5:15 p.m., another update. Elaine's shouting at the engineers. 2 walked out. At 5:45 p.m., a headline notification. Novamed discloses temporary production disruption citing system upgrade issues. Stock drops additional 5% in after-hours trading. I wondered how long Elaine could maintain the facade before admitting reality. Novamed couldn't operate without NeuroBridge, and they couldn't legally use NeuroBridge without me. The answer arrived sooner than I expected. At 6:30 p.m., an email landed in my inbox from someone I hadn't anticipated. Janet Myers, chair of Novamed's board. Her message was concise. Ms. Harper, the board has convened an emergency meeting tomorrow morning regarding the ongoing operational disruption. Please contact me at your earliest convenience. I called immediately. Janet picked up on the first ring. Ms. Harper, she greeted, her voice composed yet urgent. Thank you for responding so quickly. The board has just been briefed about a critical system failure halting production. Elaine claims you intentionally sabotaged the company. Is that accurate? Not at all, I answered evenly. I simply chose not to renew a licensing agreement following my dismissal. The system is functioning exactly as authorized by law, I replied evenly. I understand, Janet said thoughtfully. Elaine failed to mention any licensing complication. That doesn't surprise me, I answered. She's been disregarding my formal notices for over a week. There was a pause. I've been reviewing the documentation related to your termination, Janet continued. Elaine categorized your role as non-essential to current operations. And yet now she asserts that our entire production chain relies on the very system you created. That inconsistency hasn't escaped my attention. I heard her sigh quietly. Would you be willing to present your perspective directly to the board tomorrow? We're meeting at 9 a.m. I'll be there, with my attorney, I assured her. Shortly after we ended the call, a text came in from Maya. Elaine just told everyone you hacked the system. I frowned. She added, no one's buying it, especially after those engineers resigned yesterday. Board members have been calling department heads directly, asking questions. I forwarded Maya's update to Dr. Patel, adding, they're looking for a scapegoat. Elaine's pointing at me. His reply was instant. Bring everything tomorrow, every file, every email. It's time they hear the truth. The board meeting was arranged over video conference due to the urgency. I sat beside Dr. Patel in his office, dressed sharply, my files meticulously sorted. Elaine appeared on screen, visibly exhausted, dark shadows under her eyes. She launched into a scripted statement about a disgruntled ex-employee orchestrating sabotage, but Janet swiftly interrupted her. We've already heard your account, Elaine. Now we'd like to listen to Miss Harper. I shared my screen and calmly walked them through the timeline, the original patent filing, James's written directives encouraging me to safeguard my invention, the licensing contract, my termination notice, and the series of ignored warnings I'd sent about the license expiry. I haven't sabotaged anything, I concluded. The system is simply honoring the legal protections that were built into it. Protections that Elaine knowingly dismissed. A board member, Dr. Richardson, spoke up. I collaborated with Leah at Stanford before she joined Novamed. I can personally attest to her integrity. If she says this system is hers, I believe it. Janet nodded. The documentation is compelling. Elaine, why weren't we informed about this licensing issue before now? Elaine fumbled for words. I intended to handle it internally. It wasn't necessary to burden the board with operational specifics. Dr. Richardson's expression hardened. A proprietary system governing our entire production pipeline isn't a minor operational matter. It's the foundation of this company's value. Janet turned back to me. Thank you, Ms. Harper. Please disconnect while we deliberate. She added, we'll be in contact shortly, directly. As the call ended, Dr. Patel leaned back with a smile. That went better than we could have hoped. The rest of the afternoon passed in anxious anticipation. At 4 p.m., my phone rang. It was Raj. Leah, I wanted you to hear it from me, he said. The board just voted. Elaine's been placed on administrative leave pending a full inquiry. I felt my chest tighten. Who's stepping in? Janet Myers has been named interim CEO. She's scheduled an all-hands meeting tomorrow morning. A complex wave of emotions washed over me, relief, validation, but also worry for the organization I'd poured years into and the colleagues still inside. There's more, Raj added. Michelle told me they're auditing all recent terminations and hires. Both Zachary and Connor have been suspended. When we hung up, I sat quietly, absorbing what it all meant. I hadn't set out on this journey to see Elaine removed. My goal had always been simple: acknowledgement of my contributions and fair compensation for my innovation. At 6:30 p.m., an email arrived from Janet Myers. Ms. Harper, thank you for your honesty today. The board would like to explore a possible strategic partnership with you regarding NeuroBridge. Would you be available to meet tomorrow afternoon? I forwarded the message to Dr. Patel with a short question. What's your read on this? His reply came swiftly. They're about to offer you more than you originally requested. You hold every advantage now. I typed my response to Janet. I'll be there. Walking into Novamed's headquarters the next afternoon felt almost surreal. The security guard at reception greeted me politely and handed me a visitor badge. As I walked across the marble lobby, several employees paused to look. Some nodded. A few smiled warmly. Janet met me near the elevator. Thank you for coming, Miss Harper. Or may I call you Leah? Leah's fine, I replied. She guided me to the executive boardroom, the same room where Elaine had dismissed me just 2 weeks earlier. How quickly fortunes had shifted. Inside were 3 board directors and Michelle Davis, Novamed's legal counsel. Janet gestured to an open seat. Leah, we've reviewed everything thoroughly. The way you were treated was unacceptable, Janet began. The board was unaware of how critical your technology was to our operations, or of the licensing agreement. Dr. Richardson added, we don't just need NeuroBridge. We need you. Janet slid a folder across the table. This is our formal offer. We'd like you to return as Chief Technology Officer with full credit for your patent and a substantial equity package. Your immediate responsibility would be to overhaul our intellectual property protections and rebuild our engineering integrity. I read the proposal carefully. The compensation exceeded what I'd proposed in my licensing terms. I have conditions, I said evenly. I want the autonomy to rebuild engineering culture from the ground up. And I want the authority to review all personnel actions taken during Elaine's leadership. Janet nodded without hesitation. Agreed. When can you start? I thought of the 14 years I'd invested at Novamed, the breakthroughs I'd achieved, the teams I'd mentored. Monday, I replied. I'll begin Monday. My first week as CTO was a whirlwind, demanding but invigorating. I focused on 3 fronts: restoring NeuroBridge to full capacity, reassembling the engineering team, and repairing fractured client relationships. I rehired Maya as Director of Engineering and invited back the 3 engineers who had resigned during the crisis. I also reached out to other brilliant minds who had left under Elaine's reign. By Wednesday, production was fully operational. By Friday, most client issues had been resolved. The stock began to recover. During a routine code audit, Maya called me over with concern in her voice. Leah, check these commits from Zachary, she said, pointing at her screen. What I saw chilled me. Zach hadn't simply tinkered with NeuroBridge. He'd been siphoning segments of code into an external repository. We traced the destination, a startup called Neuralink, a direct competitor that had mysteriously secured venture funding shortly after I was terminated. He was transferring proprietary code, Maya said grimly. And look who's listed on their leadership page. The website displayed a familiar face, Connor, Elaine's nephew, listed as technical advisor. I immediately notified Janet and our legal team. This isn't just a licensing dispute anymore, I said quietly. This is outright corporate theft. Michelle prepared a cease and desist order targeting Neuralink and began drafting legal action. With this evidence, she confirmed, we can pursue both Neuralink and Elaine personally. I nodded resolutely. Move forward, I told Michelle. No one steals from Novamed. Not even its former leadership. 3 weeks into my role as Chief Technology Officer, I received a handwritten note that stopped me cold, its sincerity bringing unexpected tears to my eyes. Dear Ms. Harper, you don't know me, but I was an intern in the engineering team when you were dismissed. I witnessed everything that followed. How you defended your work. How you refused to be silenced even as Elaine tried to make you the scapegoat. Watching you stand your ground showed me I don't have to accept mistreatment to succeed in this field. I've since been hired full-time and have been chosen to lead a new internal audit initiative to review how credit is assigned within engineering. Thank you for being the example I didn't know I needed. Sincerely, Jamie Lee. I invited Jamie to lunch the next day. The young engineer arrived looking slightly nervous, but eager as we sat down to talk about fostering fairness in how innovations were recognized. That audit initiative was Janet's idea, Jamie explained, their eyes shining with quiet determination. We're reviewing patent filings and major project credits to ensure every contribution is properly attributed. What have you uncovered so far? I asked. Jamie hesitated, then said softly, several cases like yours. Breakthroughs credited to executives that were actually developed by engineers, many of them women and people of color. I wasn't shocked, but hearing it confirmed still hurt. We're fixing it, Jamie promised. Every innovation will have rightful credit moving forward. As we parted ways, a deeper sense of mission welled inside me. This had never been just about reclaiming my place. It was about changing an entrenched system. A month after I'd returned, Novamed issued a press release that rippled through the industry. Novamed proudly recognizes Leah Harper as the original inventor and patent holder of NeuroBridge, the groundbreaking neural interface powering our award-winning prosthetics. As our Chief Technology Officer, Ms. Harper will drive our innovation strategy and ensure Novamed remains a leader in ethical medical technology. The release also announced my appointment to the board and the launch of the Harper Innovation Fund, a program to support emerging engineers inside the company. What the press didn't mention was that Elaine had been permanently dismissed and was under separate investigation for her involvement in the Neuralink scheme. When the announcement hit, my inbox flooded with congratulations from colleagues across the sector. Many shared their own stories, tales of overlooked work, stolen ideas, credit taken by others. That afternoon, Janet invited me into her office. "The response has been incredible," she told me. 3 key clients who were wavering have renewed their contracts, specifically citing your leadership as their reason to stay. I smiled. "That's great news." "There's more," Janet continued. "The Women in Tech Summit reached out. They'd like you to deliver the keynote next month. They want you to speak about innovation, recognition, and bouncing back from adversity." Public speaking had never been my comfort zone. But something about this invitation felt vital. "Tell them yes," I said. A week later, Jamie knocked on my office door, looking serious. "I found something during the audit you need to see." They handed me a printed email. It was from Elaine, addressed to several board members, dated 3 months before my dismissal. "As discussed, we need to phase out the legacy leadership and bring in fresh talent. Leah Harper's role, in particular, represents unnecessary overhead that could be better redirected towards sales and marketing." I stared at the words, feeling a mix of anger and validation. Marketing. Her platform is now stable enough that we could maintain it with less senior, less costly engineers. But what unsettled me wasn't Elaine's plan to remove me. I had sensed that coming for months. What truly surprised me was Janet's pushback. "I can't endorse this decision," Janet had written. "Leah's contributions are vital to our company's success. Her system requires her direct oversight. Review the patent terms before proceeding." Elaine had disregarded Janet's caution entirely. "There's more," Jamie told me quietly, handing me additional documents. "Look at these emails." Elaine misled the board, claiming unanimous support for her actions. I forwarded the evidence to Michelle in legal. "The Securities and Exchange Commission needs to see this," I told her. Elaine's actions go beyond poor leadership. She's misrepresented material facts to the board and possibly shareholders. Michelle's face darkened. "This changes everything. She's at risk for serious regulatory violations." That evening, I sat on my apartment balcony, watching the city lights shimmer below, reflecting on how swiftly everything had turned. Just 2 months earlier, I'd been publicly dismissed and humiliated. Now, I was helping build a legal case against the very person who orchestrated it. Justice has a way of arriving when you least expect it. With the immediate crisis resolved, I turned my focus toward systemic reform within Novamed. My first major initiative was an innovation attribution framework, a policy ensuring every contributor to a project received formal credit and fair compensation. The board unanimously endorsed the plan. "This is groundbreaking," Dr. Richardson remarked during the vote. "Most corporations hoard intellectual property. We're choosing transparency." I smiled. Innovation doesn't belong to the company, it belongs to the people who create it. Every product release now included a digital credit reel listing every engineer, designer, and tester involved. The tech world took notice. Within weeks, 3 rival firms reached out, curious to learn more about our model. One afternoon, Maya stopped by my office. "You know what's changed?" she asked, grinning. "People are excited to show up again. They feel respected." Her words meant more than any award. We weren't just building smarter devices. We were building a better culture. All because one short-sighted executive underestimated the wrong person. 6 months into my role as CTO, I received an unexpected message. Elaine wanted to meet for coffee. Dr. Patel advised against it, but curiosity nudged me forward. We met at a bustling cafe near campus. Elaine arrived looking worn down, the swagger gone, replaced by guarded politeness. She launched into a practiced monologue about fresh beginnings and her new autonomous robotics startup. I listened quietly, studying her. "Elaine," I finally interrupted, "why are we really meeting?" She hesitated before admitting her true agenda. "The lawsuit against Neuralink is overreaching. I could help de-escalate things if you're willing to be reasonable." I rose from my seat, leaving my untouched latte behind. "I'm not interested," I said firmly. "You didn't just dismiss me, you gave me the freedom to create something bigger than you ever imagined." Walking away, I felt an unexpected lightness. That chapter had finally, fully closed. Exactly 1 year after my dismissal, I signed the incorporation papers for Haven Systems, a company dedicated to ethical AI and engineer-owned innovation. Novamed joined as a minority investor, with Janet serving on my advisory board. I remained on Novamed's board while building this new vision. Maya came aboard as co-founder. We recruited exceptional talent, engineers overlooked or underappreciated elsewhere. Our first contract? Omnitech, Novamed's fiercest rival. "Aren't you worried about conflicts of interest?" their CEO asked over a handshake. I smiled. "No conflict. Just progress." "Not at all," I answered smoothly. "My specialty is designing systems where creativity is safeguarded and credit is given where it's earned." "And your agreements?" the CEO pressed. I allowed a small smile. "Let's just say we scrutinize every clause down to the smallest footnote." As Maya and I stepped outside, contract in hand, she laughed. "Can you believe this? A year ago, you were packing up your office. Now, you're rewriting the playbook." 18 months after my dismissal, I stood beneath the bright lights of a packed auditorium, accepting the Innovation of the Decade Award for Neurobridge. My name glistened on the plaque, forever etched as inventor and patent holder. "Breakthroughs flourish," I told the audience, "when brilliant minds are empowered with trust, resources, and rightful recognition." Afterward, a young woman approached me, her eyes shining. "Ms. Harper, I'm Zoe Carter," she said shyly. "I'm here tonight because of you. Your keynote last year gave me the courage to pursue a career in biomedical engineering, even when people told me it wasn't for me." Her words hit me deeply. "That's wonderful, Zoe. What are you working on?" "I just got accepted into the Harper Fellowship at Novamed," she said proudly. I smiled warmly. "Then remember this. Create something so exceptional they can't ignore it, and so well protected no one can take it from you." As she walked away, I felt an overwhelming sense of fulfillment. My battle hadn't just reclaimed my place, it had planted seeds for a future where innovators like Zoe could thrive in an industry that finally recognized their worth.